Hello, my name is Dennis. I ask for your indulgence for a few minutes while I share some of my journey with you. I also ask for your understanding if I stumble on this verbal journey, as my form of dementia sometimes robs me of my ability to speak normally and to be understood. I thank you in advance. Now I'll share some of my story. I was a former teacher in TAFE when, in 2013, I received my diagnosis from a leading neurological research institute. The consultant told me I had frontotemporal dementia and had 3 to 8 years to live, maybe even up to 20, and that I should retire gracefully, in brackets, while I still could. I was very happy that I had a diagnosis. It gave me an explanation of the symptoms I had been experiencing for the last 18 months or so. But, like most people, I knew nothing about what dementia was, let alone frontotemporal dementia. This was despite my mother having been diagnosed with dementia 8 years before, just after her 90th birthday, and sadly she died later that year. 2 weeks later, I went back to my GP to ask what happens next. She appeared a bit shaken by my diagnosis and suggested that I tell people I had frontotemporal degeneration and not use the D word, and that there were no treatments and no support available. At the time it seemed strange to me that I should be asked to lie about my condition, and I didn't understand why she would suggest it, but I soon saw the logic in her argument. An hour or two later I met with my head teacher, who I had known for over 20 years. I handed him my diagnosis. He looked confused and asked me for the punchline, thinking it was a joke. Well, it wasn't. I then saw my campus manager, and she burst into tears. I didn't understand this at the time, but one of her parents had recently been diagnosed with dementia. Fortunately, my family and most of my close friends have been very accepting of my diagnosis and supportive. Indeed, they encourage me and support me to keep going and to speak out about dementia and its impacts. Unfortunately, this enlightened attitude is less common in the broad community, and I have found many people's reaction to dementia to be near destructive, eroding my ability and desire to go out into the community. Fortunately, I've had the privilege of being involved in one of Australia's first dementia-friendly communities. It was through this project that I met Kate Swaffer. She did 3 significant things for me and others in our group. Firstly, she demonstrated that you can not only remain active when you're diagnosed with dementia, but you can live well with dementia. Secondly, she challenged us to be more active and deterministic in the role of shaping our communities. Thirdly, she introduced me to others and to the Dementia Alliance International, a worldwide group of people who are without peer in the work they do for us all. Here the difference is that everyone is aware of what it is like to have dementia. They try to see me, the person, and not the disease. They are supportive where others are often dismissive. They help support me and encourage me to remain active and contribute to the community, both locally and globally. They see me like anyone else in their community, a person, not a label. Living with dementia is a continuing challenge. No matter what form it takes, and there are many forms, it is a progressive degeneration of the brain and ultimately terminal. As such, the effects and symptoms of dementia are diverse and increase in severity over time. While my senses may not be physically altered by dementia, my ability to process and handle sensory input is compromised. I'll give you a quick insight to some of my symptoms and how they impact me. I have prosopagnosia, which I can't pronounce, commonly referred to as face blindness. I don't recognise faces, but I do recognise people by other features, such as their voice, or hair, or even smell. Testing suggests that I can't recognise people's emotional state from their facial expression, but I recognise their body language, which often contradicts their facial expression, and this often gets me into trouble. My hearing is good, but I find it hard to follow voices in a conversation, particularly where background noise can overwhelm, make me anxious, and want to flee the environment. I find it increasingly much harder to regulate my emotional responses. For example, good music will elicit both tears of joy and tears of sorrow in equal flood. A condition I would now not trade. It almost makes having dementia worthwhile. In short, I'd like to say this about my journey with dementia. Having this disease, somatic frontotemporal dementia, is a daily challenge. One I know I will ultimately lose. But the hardest challenge I face are other people's attitudes, the social stigma and hidden barriers. This is often worse than the disease. And there's something that we can all do about that. Finally, I would like to conclude by saying that while I wish I didn't have dementia, I have found my journey to be not all bad. I now have a strong purpose in my life that I never had before. I have found many new friends through DAI who share similar journeys and stories. And I ask you all to share your stories of dementia and its hidden impacts, to help others understand both us and to help us with our journeys. I thank you. Live well and prosper.